It's been so long. I've missed you all so much. Welcome back to another episode of Justice League Revisited. I'm James Enstall, host of Geek to Me Radio. Sitting on the other side of the Zoom screen from me in witness protection, we have my wonderful co-host, the voice of Wonder Woman, Susan Eisenberg. I feel like we haven't talked in forever.
We haven't talked in forever, and it's so good to see. I know you can't see me because I'm in shadow. Blame that on the shades. But yeah, it's so good to see your face. And it's so good to be doing this because I've missed doing it. But we've had a few complications on our little road trip.
The hurricanes have not made things easy on your road trip through the, you took the worst possible time to explore the America's southeast region.
Yeah, well, you know, it was just like, oh, let's do a road trip. Oh, let's go visit this one and that one and this one. And then when we got to the Florida area, it was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum. So yeah, I did go through Milton. I wouldn't advise that for the average person out there. It's not enjoyable to go through a hurricane. As it turns out, it's terrible. And to all those people who are still cleaning up and digging out, my heart goes out to you. And but I will say this: having lived in Southern California for as many years as I have, I prefer something where you get the heads up that something is coming. The earthquakes, not so much, and that remains the scariest for me. Are those earthquakes, but hurricanes, no joke. And with global warming, things just seem to be getting more and crazier and crazier with this weather we got going on. So I'm fine. My family's fine, thank God. But woof.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
You too.
It's been a lot.
And I know I put out on Twitter that we were delaying the episode that was supposed to have dropped a couple Tuesdays ago. So thank you all for your well wishes to Susan on her travels. And thank you all for being patient with us. So here we are talking about Eclipsed. Finally, this is what a cast on this one. This was written by Joseph Kerr, directed by our good friend Dan Reba. The cast in this includes Tracy Walter as Morpheer, Enrico Colantoni as Glorious Godfrey. We have Brian Doyle Murray as Artie Bauman, who I'll never not think of as president, or not President Shirley, but Mr. Shirley, the head of the company that that Chevy Chase worked for in Christmas Vacation. Just leave it on the table with the other presents there, greaseball. That's always going to be Brian Doyle Murray to me. Bruce McGill as General McCormick, Ted McGinley as Burns, Lauren Tom as Chung, and Ian James Corlett as Sarge. Quite a cast you have for this episode.
Great cast. Always, but really, I mean, every cast on this show is a great cast. Andrea, puts the call out and people, they came running.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great cast. And I can't wait to dive into this one because I have things to say. I have things to talk about on for this episode, and I know you do, and our guest will as well.
That's correct.
Should we talk about who's going to be on the show today?
Sitting in the green room, sipping her her iced mocha latte, is writer Erica Schultz. She's been on before with us, and we felt with this episode it was a great fit to have her back on again. She brings that writer's insight to these shows, and she comes up with stuff sometimes that I'm like, oh, I wish I'd have said that. Or I wish I'd have thought of that point. So
see, I never think that because my brain does not go to those places. So I never have those thoughts. I'm just glad we have her here because between the two of you, I'll get an education today. I'm hoping.
That's our goal. So yeah, very excited to have her. Without further ado, Erica Schultz joins us for a second time, and we're so happy to have her fresh off her tour of New York Comic Con. Erica, this is great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me again.
How was the convention? How was New York Comic Con? I've never been, and it always looks so frantic.
It is a lot. It's a lot in terms of whether you're just there as an attendee or you're there as Susan has been signing, or you're there at a table. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of panels. But it's also got a really great energy, and it's kind of a hometown show for me because I'm in Jersey. So it's a show I always have to do. But it was great. I mean, I met a lot of fans. We announced some new books, and it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so is there anything you can announce on our podcast to
Yes,
let people know what's coming up?
Absolutely. So Laura Kinney Wolverine #1 will be in stores in December. Daredevil Unleash Hell, which is a new miniseries, will be in stores in January.
Now, I've got to ask because I'm keeping current. Daredevil is one of the few books I'm actually keeping current with and reading, as opposed to the giant short box of comics that are unread from every new comic book day. Does this tie in at all with the current story arc he's going through, where he was reborn as a priest and kind of all of his friends forgot him? Can you tell us anything about how it ties in with the current?
Unleash Hell actually jumps off of my Daredevil Woman Without Fear, the miniseries that I did with Mike Dowling and Brian Reber and Yvonne Fiorello.
Okay, so this is the
this is Elektra.
Elektra Daredevil. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious where it fits in. So continuity wise, it's still in the current timeline though, right? It's not a...
Yes,
Okay.
It absolutely is.
Excellent.
And just like the title, she literally goes to hell.
And for all of you Justice League fans who listen to this and you're DC people, don't pretend like you don't like Daredevil. You know you do. Come on.
Okay, and so New York Comic Con was great. That, I just followed every post you did. So I knew you were there. I knew every day your schedule. And, I just, I love that you're there. I love that you go to all these cons and you take your books and you have your tables and you meet your fans. I mean, that's awesome.
And I hawk my wares. Yes.
Yes, but as we all need to do, right?
Yeah.
We are all out there trying to figure it out and cobble together our livings. I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Thank you. Because when James and I were trying to figure out who would be on for Eclipsed, our next episode, your name came up because you're so busy. You have so much going on. And I thought it would be great to have her on. Number one, you were an amazing guest the first time you were on, and we loved our conversation with you. And also, I just also appreciate people having another place to tell your fans, our fans, what you got going on. I think that's so important.
And allowing me to sort of hijack your platform for, a few minutes is actually is very kind. So I appreciate that a lot.
Oh, we love it. We love it. Thank you. So now we're on to Eclipsed.
Yes.
Right, James?
Yes. For those of you keeping track at home, this is the 19th story overall, episodes 39 and 40 since the series launched, and it's episodes 13 and 14 in season 2, written by Joseph Kerr and directed by our buddy Dan Reba.
Danny Reba. It feels weird doing an episode without him, frankly.
I know, but he's jet setting across the country, going from this con to that con, and with heroic fine art. He's everywhere.
Okay, he's got more bookings than all of us combined at this point.
Yes,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
Like he got his con. He got the taste. He got he got bitten. What else can I say? The con bug, and it's just incredible. I mean, he's got agents and managers.
His interns, though, I saw him open hand slap an intern at Heroic Comic Con because he got his coffee order wrong. So just beware.
Right. Yeah, because that temper and the drinking and the martinis, right?
Always a bad combination. Dan, if you're listening, we love you, and we say all these things in jest.
In jest. So can I just start this conversation about Eclipse saying this? I don't remember seeing. I mean, I haven't seen this episode in forever. Mm-hmm. And this is the first one. I mean, I hate to even say it out loud, but we're going to be honest here. This was the first episode I didn't really love. In fact, didn't even like it that much. I just thought it was so odd. It felt like a standalone. Not that you need like tremendous continuity for each. I mean, I like that we have different stories each week, and different characters get represented more than others sometimes, but this just felt like, and maybe it's because of me, because I don't have a sense of history with these characters, but it just felt like such an outlier as an episode. Am I crazy? I'm asking the panel you're the experts.
I don't think you're crazy at all, actually, because I felt like this episode was trying to do a lot. It was trying to bring in a character from the comics called Eclipso. It was trying to weave the character of Mofir throughout. But then it was trying to do too much, because then was this they were doing G. Gordon Godfrey, and I don't know if this is the first episode that he's been in for Justice League, but they were having him there to sort of set up this peanut gallery backlash to the heroes, and to basically say, like, not everybody sees them as heroes, which is something that they did in Justice League Unlimited when the Watchtower came down and blasted stuff. So that's something that they expanded on in that. But and then there was like Flash's whole thing with doing all the commercials and the consumerism of everything. I felt like they did so much and they tried to push so many things together that the first episode, when we were watching it last night, I felt like we don't really know what's going on. And it's only until the second episode that we have that moment where Morphir sits down and explains the reptile people and this, that, and the next thing. So it is kind of disjointed. And I think that if this was a story that was with any other property aside from Justice League, which has such a dedicated fan base, then it might not have landed at all, simply because the fan base might have said, like, we don't know what's going on. You know, like nothing is being explained to us, and it's all pretty much taken on faith. But because you have fans that are like, yes, I get it. It's Wonder Woman, it's Flash, it's, this, that, and the next thing, they're of course going to go along for the ride because that's, they're fans of it. But I think otherwise, in a vacuum, I don't think that this is a great episode narratively. I mean, no shade to anybody who worked on it, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I had the same sense of it. James, what about you when you watched it? James was about to say, "This is my favorite episode ever." No, what was your take on it?
It was markedly different from every other episode we've seen this season so far, and it almost felt, to Erica's point, like episodes 1 and 2 were hugely disjointed because, as opposed to every other episode where we know who Metallo is, we know who these Themysciran warriors are. In the comic books, there is a being called Eclipso. In this, it was just the gem possessing different people. And while we did get the costume on the general, it was not really, air quote, Eclipso. So I thought that was interesting that they just did the essence of the gem. And also, I feel like the second part of the episode was much better. It was more action-packed. The whole thing with the League attacking Flash on the Watchtower was a great episode to watch during Halloween, because you get those terrifying moments of Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman wailing on the windshield of the Javelin trying to break in on Flash. And it was while I'm watching this in the spooky season, I'm like, I'm like, this is cool. But
it was spooky.
But it was a much different tone in the first episode where we have a lot of the army people, the whole setup of how the gem gets released from the army moving, all the soldiers and everything was quite a bit different. So I agree that it's quite a disjointed thing. And I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not my favorite. It's not going to rank in my top 10, but it was solid.
And also I read somewhere, because I was kind of doing a deep dive into the episode after I watched it. And, where somebody said, one of the comments I read was, the enemy, the villain, is a gem. It's not even, there's no human form for what they're afraid of or being attacked by. And that takes out something. I think that takes away from the episode, frankly, that you're fighting this gem as opposed to this villainous creature.
This bad guy. Yeah.
Right. This bad guy.
I think that when they had the general dressed up as Eclipso, I think that was supposed to be a nod to that, but I don't think that it was enough. I agree. I also think that,
you're right.
It was weird that when everybody was on the Watchtower, everybody but Batman, and you actually have Flash trying to communicate to Batman when everybody has been infected. But aside from that, I mean, like there was some. Everybody sort of felt like an afterthought to a certain extent. I do have to say that there was that little nod of. Instead of Green Lantern, Green Arrow on the road trip, there was the nod to Flash and Green Arrow on the road, and Flash and Green Lantern on the road trip when they were talking about Flash's van. So I thought that was kind of funny, considering that I used to work for Neil Adams, and he used to write and draw, Green Lantern, Green Arrow. But yeah, I think that narratively, I think that that this storyline was a little disjointed in that it didn't have, you didn't have the particular bad guy that you could hate. And also, because of that, you don't, like, a gem doesn't have motivations. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
so it takes that piece of the heart of the story.
Yeah.
It takes it out because it's just this inanimate object that we're fearing and running from, and also I felt like all of the League, they were all taken over, but did we see each one being taken over? Like all of a sudden they were all possessed, and it just felt really rushed to me that they were all possessed. And also it bothered me that Batman didn't answer the call. It bothered me that we didn't have a follow through to that note. Anyone else be bothered by that? Like it bothered me.
I figured he was off fighting Clayface or off fighting Scarecrow. I just assumed he wasn't in the Batcave to answer the call.
I felt like, if they had, I mean, possibly Kevin wasn't available, but I felt like if they had a response, it could have been, Batman saying something like, I don't have time for, obviously this wouldn't be the line, but I don't have time for your BS,
right.
Flash, I've got more important things to do, kind of thing. And then, it sort of harkens back to the idea that Flash is always sort of a joker, a prankster, and that people aren't going to take him seriously even when there is a serious situation.
This is a real Flash-centric episode. I feel like there have been a few when we talked about like him. What was the one recently, James, that we talked about where Dan was saying we were saying how we were surprised it was Flash that was
a better world. Flash was the one who was taken out. Yeah. And you kind of see that they lose that heart of the group.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this one also is very Flash centric. And I'm like, wow.
Michael's getting the play.
Michael, look at Michael, go. But yeah, I guess I would have liked one line of Batman, of Kevin saying, I don't have time, or I'm busy, or because it just felt like empty air, like it didn't land. That phone call didn't land, and it bothered me.
I wondered,
it
was
like
just
filler.
dangling. Yeah, it very much so.
Yeah, I wondered if they didn't have that line because people are going to look at, well, why didn't he try to contact Batman?
Right.
Well, he did. So there we go. So that kind of takes that criticism out that possibly could be lobbed at the episode. Maybe. I don't know. That's a Dan Reba question, probably.
Yes. And get him on the Bat phone.
He doesn't answer my call either. Just like Batman didn't answer the Flash.
Damn it. Anyway, I mean, so that the Batman thing, Wonder Woman hearing those lines that have been repeated back to me or are in gifts, what's wrong with the way I dress, things like that. It was fun to revisit those moments for her because I hadn't seen those moments other than in gifts that people share with me or I share with other people. Men are fools.
Yes, I have that underlined here on my notes.
Oof. I've used that one more than a few times. I'm very careful, though. I'm very choosy when I use it because I don't want it just to be this go-to because, I certainly don't think all men are fools. The majority,
a good portion of them are.
That's my time, folks. Good night. I'm out. We'll let them handle it from here. So. I had a question about that because Brian Doyle Murray, of all people, is the voice of Flash's agent, and he delivers that line, I've seen showgirls with more... as Glorious Godfrey says, I've seen showgirls with more modesty, but you actually get to rough up Brian Doyle Murray in this one, Susan. You grab him by his collar. How was he in the booth? How was he to work with?
You know what? Honestly, I don't remember this. I don't remember. I don't. I mean, it's there's so many moments I do remember. Ed Asner, every second Ed Asner was in that booth, I remember vividly because it was just beyond thrilling.
It was Ed Asner.
It was Ed Asner. I mean, it was so special. I wish I could remember this. And when she says men are fools, she's already possessed, correct?
Yes.
So because that makes more sense to me than it just being Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman, for me, would never say that. I mean, she might feel that, and she obviously is from Themyscira or Paradise Island, whichever you prefer, and it's an island of women, but I always think of her as somewhat compassionate and kind. So the fact that she says that line under her spell, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
I don't think she would have said it so aggressively had it been just Diana without the gem. She might have been like,
no,
men are kind of fools, but I don't think she would have been aggressive about it.
Right. Yeah. And she's so aggressive, when she's about to drop the body, there's such an aggression to her, which she can lose her patience. I'm always amazed how much she loses her patience in this show. Not this episode, but in the show itself, because, you always talk about Diana's kindness, her compassion. She's got a spark in Justice League and Unlimited, which I love that they wrote her like that. I think she needs
to, though, also because, if you think about it, yes, she is one of the most physically strong heroes that they have. But at the same time, even in Unlimited, when they broaden the ranks, right, the vast majority are still men that they're bringing in. They've got Stargirl and they've got, Dr. Light and, Fire and Ice and other
Vixen.
Women that they're bringing in, and Vixen and Black Canary. But when you're looking, you're panning that image of all of the silhouettes of all the heroes, most of them are guys. Mm-hmm. So even still, you've got her being one of the few women on, and also, think about it, like, curing's a man's game, that kind of, stupid notion. But yeah, you have Diana losing her patience because, justifiably, losing her patience.
1,000%.
Yeah.
James, I can't hear you.
No.
We're losing you. We're losing reception.
I was just kind of, chuckling to myself because you all listening can't see this, but every so often when Susan moves, you can see her. But when the lighting goes off, it looks like she's someone in witness protection who we're interviewing, and it's hysterical.
It's so funny. I have the window open. It's not a blind. It's
shades.
They're not shades. They're sounds like they're shutters. Thank you. Yes. Shutters. And I have them both open. And so as everything shift, I shift as well. And if I don't want to tell you my location because maybe I am on the run.
Okay, I understand.
In the witness. Thanks, James, for blowing the whole thing.
It would explain a lot.
So much care.
It would explain quite a bit, but that's a story for it. I was kind of taken aback too, because you could almost say that Glorious Godfrey is one of the bad guys in this, because he's all about the ratings. He doesn't care about the Justice League's reputation at all. And how often are we seeing this in modern media nowadays, where that things are played out and
it was so timely, so timely.
Yeah. But if I remember correctly, in the Legends miniseries, Glorious Godfrey actually ends up being a minion of Darkseid, which that never comes back into play in this animated series. Which I was like, it's just a guy. But he's from Apocalypse, and he has hypnosis powers, and he has the powers to basically influence people, which is one of the reasons why he can sort of what's the word? Really fire up the crowd and stuff, because he himself is influencing them. Yeah, but they never kind of allude to that in this episode, which I kind of thought, they're not going to tie that in because Darkseid doesn't show up until into Unlimited. So yeah, but that was still an interesting throw in.
Yeah, it's a throw in, but again, it just felt like there was no payoff in that way. Yeah. Again.
Also, and in a really weird way, I actually thought that and I know that he was doing it for the ratings, but some of the things that he was saying, he actually had a point of, the collateral damage of the heroes sometimes. Mm-hmm. And that is something that they do get into in Unlimited. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was an interesting thing that they were bringing it up, and then they sort of downplay him and dismiss him. But then that idea comes up again. I want to say season, was it 3 or 4? Yeah. When that happens.
Yeah. That's it's one of the things we talked about on Watchtower Database, their podcast. We said, boy, the mortgage rates and I'm sure the insurance rates in Metropolis must be through the roof, because we see all the damages done anytime Calabac or Lobo shows up and fights Superman. It's like, whew, I would not want to live in Metropolis. Or
Gotham. Think about it. Yeah. All the people, Batman zooming through, skyscrapers and, banking off of some of them sometimes. So stay away from the windows, people.
Right. Yeah. Good rule.
Right. As somebody who just went through a hurricane, I can attest to that.
Yes.
The flashback device. I always love it so much. It's in this episode. It's in most of the episodes. I dig it. And it was so important. I think I watched it twice just so I could chart it because I'm like, not part of this world. So I was like, okay, what is he saying? What is the explanation to everything that's going on here? But I just love that they use those devices. Don't you just love them?
And it
the
helps.
Flashback?
And yeah, the flashback works really, really well also because, and speaking as somebody who tells a lot of stories in a nonlinear way, I mean, opening with sort of like your what's the word, sort of your impact piece, and then saying this is where we are right now, but then this is how we got there, and then using that as an explanation, I think is a nice way of bringing your audience along.
Absolutely. And another thing I was really struck by in this episode, I wrote down, heart of darkness, destroy humanity, evil wants escape. It's there's some serious dark matter in this episode, and in practically all the episodes, but it was just like really outlined, like you just heard the phrases, and I wrote them down because I'm like, oof. Somebody's in psychotherapy, or somebody's doing analysis. It was, again, I'm sure all these themes come up over and over again in these stories, but for somebody who's looking at this from the outside, it's like, wow, you never see this in One Life to Live.
Right.
I never saw this on, it's darkness.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is that the crystal that is, sort of the bad guy in this it has a title. It has the Heart of Darkness.
Right.
But the opposite crystal that Mofir has that is sort of an antidote. I don't believe that he says that crystal has a name. Like it doesn't have a title like the Heart of Darkness.
He just called it his gem.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting because it kind of made me think a little bit of like, the Lords of Chaos and the Lords of Order when it comes to like Dr. Fate and Clarion and the rest of them. I thought it was interesting because if you have this mirror image of it, I would have thought that would have been as important enough to have this sort of title, to have this, prestige, like the Heart of Darkness versus the Light of Truth or the Gem of Truth or something that.
The Heart of the Ocean.
So I thought that was interesting.
Oh, that's taken.
Yeah, the Heart of the Ocean.
That's from Titanic. Never mind.
Yes. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that, again, because we were talking about, it not having like a physical person to sort of fight against, that Mofir didn't have a title for his sort of antidote to this.
It's so sweet because I'm watching the two of you, and as Erica's speaking, people who are listening can't see they can't see the wonderful Erica or the wonderful James. But as Erica's talking, James is shaking his head, because he's nodding because he knows exactly what she's talking about and what she's referring to. And I'm so glad you can't see this, people, because if you saw my face, it just has this lost little look. Like, what are they saying? I don't know what they're talking about.
You see, I didn't put any straightener in my hair today, so it's all over
the guests can't see that, though. Only James and I can see. But it's so great. I love having somebody on who James can finally relate to, because when it's just, when we're talking, he's like, God, I wish you knew something about this universe. And now we have somebody like Erica on who knows so much about this universe.
Maybe a little too much. Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I gotta say, though, you, Susan, and this is not, if this sounds patronizing, I don't mean it to, and I apologize if it comes out that way, but I've seen like where we started, because you and I used to talk about Justice League before we started this podcast, and I can see now that we've had conversations, you're like, oh, because, and it's like you're starting to mind meld with me a little bit. You can kind of, you've got a greater understanding.
That's a Star Trek reference, and I get it. I love mind melds. I
Stan
love
Berkowitz,
them.
if you're listening, the Star Trek reference was for you, buddy. So,
so what else about this? Thank you. I take that as a compliment. Thank you so much, James.
Good.
So what else about this episode that we love, hate, appreciate, respect?
There was this thing with the whistling of the tune.
Yes.
And
creepy.
It
sets
was
a good
creepy, but it didn't have a payback, because when Mofir was doing his backstory and talking about like the serpent people, I don't know, were they singing that song during the ritual or whatever? Like, it didn't have a payback. And it reminded me of this film from the late 90s, early 2000s called Fallen, with Denzel Washington
I love that movie.
and Elias Koteas and John Goodman. And it had this thing where this guy was a serial killer, and he ended up being whatchamacallit,
possessed by a demon.
Executed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He was possessed by a demon, and he was executed. And when he got executed, he was humming this tune, and then the demon sort of jumps from him to somebody else. And there's this scene where Denzel Washington is running through this crowd trying to find the bad guy, and every person that the demon touches, he's transferring himself. So all you have is like this weird humming going coming from here, coming from there, and it was very unsettling. And so when Wonder Woman is possessed, she has to hum. When the first soldier versus the general versus whomever, and it has this very sort of like you were saying, this sort of spooky, unsettling kind of sense to it. So I noticed that. Yeah,
I think.
But you're saying there wasn't a payoff for that.
No, well, the payoff was that it didn't tie in narratively.
Right.
So like it was a cool, spooky thing. But when Mofir is talking about the history of it with the serpent people and everything, I don't 100%. Know where that came from.
Right. That's
like,
a great
was
point.
That a song that they sang during
there was
that
a song.
Ritual?
There was a song. Because I was reading it with subtitles and it said humming the ba 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 song.
Okay. So then I missed that. Okay.
I think.
Maybe when they're doing their thing and they sacrifice themselves to put their souls into because I heard it, but there was other music playing over it. I think the way the sound was layered, I had to really lean in. I said, I think that's the song that everyone's humming, but it wasn't.
And that's how I knew clear. It because of the subtitle, because I wouldn't have heard it. I saw it because of the subtitle, and there. So you're right. I mean, to have caught that. I mean, I only caught it because I saw it. I read it on the screen.
So whoever did the sound mix on this episode, you put the ambient music a little too hot.
I would agree. I concur. But no, and I got to just say again, Fallen, when everyone asks my favorite Denzel Washington movie, I always say Fallen because it was such a cool concept.
It's a great film.
The ending is pitch perfect. And plus St. Louis legend John Goodman also was in that film. So, but it's such a Tracy Walter, I want to say, who voiced Mofir in this one. I just saw him because I'm doing a rewatch of 80s shows, of course. So he just popped up in an episode of Moonlighting. And for those wondering if they're trying to put a face to the name, he played Bob, the Joker's goon, in the now 35th anniversary 1989 Batman film with Michael Keaton.
He also played in Conan the Destroyer. He played the thief in Conan the Destroyer. That's how I was introduced to him, watching Conan the Destroyer in the theater with my dad, probably at too young of an age.
Yeah, it was cool. And then we've got Enrico Colantoni played Glorious Godfrey. We mentioned Brian Doyle Murray as Artie Bauman. Bruce McGill as General McCormick. Ted McGinley makes a return after voicing a couple of people already as Burns. Lauren Tom, who we know from a lot of animated stuff in the DC universe, was Chung. And Ian James Corlett as Sarge in the opening army trio or quartet.
And she was the only one who actually knew Latin.
Right. Yeah. I guess they don't teach that in Army basic training. Usually she studied extracurricularly.
There you go.
I do. You know what? I do remember sitting next to Ted McGinley and being giddy because I just love him and I just loved him. And he was so adorable and kind in these, when he would come and visit. And I remember him being on Happy Days. Yeah. If you can believe that. So that just felt like a pinch me moment.
And now he's in Shrinking on Apple TV.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely.
Do we know who came first, Godfrey or Jameson? Because they're basically the same. J. Jonah Jameson and G. Gordon Godfrey are basically the same person.
I don't think Glorious Godfrey showed up until, Jack Kirby's New Gods run in the 70s. So I would say J. Jonah Jameson because he was right there.
In the beginning.
Very beginning of Spider-Man. So I would think J. Jonah Jameson probably precedes him by, I'm going to say at least a decade.
Okay. Because that was a question that I had. when I was taking notes for this.
Has there ever been a game show that deals with all of this? Because I could see.
They have pub nights. They have like pub quiz nights.
No, but like on television, like for this. No, because I just feel like there's the two of you are such a wealth of knowledge that it would just be so fun to watch like teams and competition, but in a healthy, wonderful way. Because where do you get to share all this knowledge?
On podcasts.
On a podcast, and you're a creator.
Or a radio show. So, yeah.
On your radio show. And Erica, you're writing and creating all these things. But my God, on a day-to-day basis, where do you put all this?
On the internet, where people will argue with you about stupid stuff about who's the better Green Lantern, you know.
We all know it's Jon Stewart. Let's not lie to ourselves. Jon Stewart.
I know, but look, Simon Boz and Jessica Cruz. Let's give Jessica. Let's give Jessica some props. All right.
Yes. Yeah, I think I would say Hal Jordan's probably the lower part of my list, oddly enough, because he was the
Guy is the furthest on my list.
I've gotten a lot of love
Guy
for
is like all the way down at the bottom.
He was the comic relief in the Giffen and DeMatteis Justice League, and that's my first introduction to him. So I always think of him as the comical, overpowered buffoon. And I
will say my number one though is the Squirrel.
Oh, okay.
He's like my number one Green Lantern.
Chip. Yeah.
CH''P. He is my number one Green Lantern.
Okay.
The Squirrel.
Can I just say to our audience, where else? Where else, I ask you, are you going to hear conversations like this? This is what we're here for. This is what we're about.
People are like, there's a Squirrel Green Lantern? Yes. And there's a Wolfman one too.
I'm one of those people saying there's a Squirrel Green Lantern.
There's a whole planet. There's a whole planet that's a Green Lantern.
Of squirrels.
Oh God, I have a lot to learn. A lot.
It's all right. They're all on Oa. They're all on Oa.
Join Susan and I on an upcoming podcast, The Green Lantern Corps and Your Introduction to Them. We'll be launching that next month.
James, we have talked about what are we going to do when we finish the Unlimited.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We're going to need something to do this because we even if there were 3 people listening, only 3 people, we'd still show up to do this. We love it so much.
My mom just found the podcast last week, so that's 4 now, Susan, actually. She said, "What's a podcast?" And I showed her on her thing how to get it, so it's great.
She has to leave a review.
I will let her
subscribe.
know.
I hope you told her. Subscribe and leave a review.
I will let her know.
Did you guys pick up the Seduction of the Innocent nod?
Yeah, the book he holds up. Yeah.
That was a real thing.
And that's a reference. Yes, that was a reference to a real. Yes. Can you talk a little about that? Because I did read about that.
So basically, there was, I don't know if he was a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist in the 50s who wrote this book called The Seduction of the Innocent. And it was talking about how how comic books and certain films and things like that were actually turning adolescents into delinquents. And this is basically when everybody talks about like the violent video games turning people into, gang members
Killers.
Or whatever. Right. This is exactly the same exact thing. It's just history repeating itself. But yeah, he was holding up a book and talking about how, the hero worshiping of these, the Justice League and other characters, that hero worship is actually detrimental to the healthy, the mental health of adolescents.
Our children. Right. And it just reversed the title from the actual book.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what it was, but the writer.
Yeah, it was like Innocent Seduced or something.
Right.
Yeah. And the Seduction of the Innocent was the title of the actual book. Yeah.
That's one of the books that led to Congress demanding the Comics Code Authority, correct? Which is on comic books after, I'd say probably 56 and on? Because it was just at the end of the golden age into the silver where they had that little white box up in the very top of the comics that says approved by the Comics Code Authority.
And that is now public domain and anybody can use it. And I know so many people who actually have it as a tattoo.
That's impressive.
That's great. Yes. I love that.
Yes.
Wowza. And, we briefly touched on the message that Godfrey was saying, about the rate. Two things. One of the things you said was he was right in the hero worship and all of that, but also like just the ratings grabs and all of this. And unfortunately,
it's very topical.
It felt very topical because I just feel like that is very much the moment we're living in now, where we're just craving real media, real journalism, as opposed to just trying to get people to tune in.
Clickbait headlines. Yeah,
of course. All of that. So that was, one of the pluses of this episode, and also like interest in terms of its relevance, and the book also. So like, wow, look at that reference. But overall,
it's what, 22 years
ago,
you know, and we haven't learned anything.
No, that's this, like, hello.
Probably go back longer than that. In other words, still haven't learned anything from, it's depressing 100%. Sometimes.
100%. Well, Erica, before we let you go, and we just want to make sure you've had a chance to say everything in terms of this episode that you wanted to say. I don't want to leave without you saying, no, I got to all my notes, because I know you watched and you took.
Yeah, of course I took notes.
I know you did.
In pink.
Oh my God. Look at her. Well, you can't see.
The only thing that I would say is that I felt that the second episode, like you said, was better paced and a little more action packed. The first episode felt a lot like a setup. And I think there could have been other ways that they could sort of take all the information that was there, that was already done, and sort of reordered it in order to make the first episode a little more engaging, as opposed to just everything happening in the second episode. And then you're seeing, the pounding on the javelin and, and sort of almost like the horror movie of the stalker situation coming. But I thought it was well done. I mean, this whole series is very well done and well performed just in general. There was a nod to the cosmic treadmill.
Yes.
that when John is shooting out this, basically platform for Barry to run along. There was the cosmic treadmill, which I thought, sorry, Wally. It's Wally in this, correct?
Yes. Barry had the cosmic treadmill. So I knew what I speak fluent geek, so I knew what you were saying.
Again, if you could see my face right now, people, lost completely and totally lost.
I will say this though, what did, and I wrote this down, what kind of irked me a little bit is that the jail was referring to Diana as princess a lot, and not with a reverence, more of like a listen, princess,
right,
kind of thing. And
very
I thought that was
Solo-esque.
Very Han Solo-esque, very dismissive. Almost as if like, yeah, she is a princess. Yeah, she is, going to be queen of Themyscira someday. Yes, she is a warrior. The fact that they were sort of dismissive about that kind of irked me. Just because it's like, have some respect, please. Like, this is royalty. Come on. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, there's a lot to, I'm glad we dug into this with you, Erica, because there were some points that you made that I hadn't really considered on this.
This is why she's our go-to.
Yeah.
This is right. But Erica, just one thing I'm really curious about now that you mentioned the chauvinism. When you were watching this show, when it first aired, and I'm sure you've seen it, you've watched it over and over
many times. Yeah.
Right. But when it was first airing, did you watch it on Cartoon Network?
I did, because when it was first airing, I was sitting on the floor in my terribly furnished, terrible apartment in Brooklyn, and I would watch it. And we watched it on Cartoon Network. And I mean, it felt, I think, what also the other thing is that when you have a commercial break, like an actual physical commercial break, it makes the pacing of the story feel different than when you're watching it on streaming. Like last night I was watching on HBO Max.
Right.
And I think that having watched it back then, we have so much superhero media now, like it's an embarrassment of riches. I can afford to be picky now. Whereas back then it was, I'm just so happy that I'm getting this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm being, graced with this, with comic books coming to life on my television set, that I don't think I would have been nearly as critical as I am now. Because
Right.
now you can take a step back and you can look and you say, oh, well, you can criticize something because you've got 50 other things that you can do. I think the other thing also, I mean, professionally, I was writing back then, but I wasn't where I am in my career now. So I wasn't as, I guess, educated and as experienced in breaking down story and in sort of like reverse engineering a story and such. So I wouldn't have been nearly as critical back then of this at all. But I do remember the chauvinism back then. And we talked about it on that other episode with the, where it was like basically the Hef character.
Yes.
Being, treating Diana the way treating Diana that way.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a mild eye roll back then. There was a bit of a more gesticulated eye roll this time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean that idea of the early 2000s, late 90s, that chauvinism was just it was just part of things. Sadly, and I think that we tend to have a more discerning eye nowadays. So yeah, I mean it definitely had a lot of chauvinism, especially because after Diana was had taken the gem and was possessed by the serpent demon, there was this sort of notion of like, I can just shoot this woman, the general who was dressed up as Eclipso, just sort of like shooting at her. And she's like, do you know who I am? Like,
right.
Well, like, come on.
Well, so I have one question to ask you that, so you're watching this, you're watching it on Cartoon Network, you're a writer. Did you ever look at the credits and say, why aren't there any women writing this? Why aren't there women directors on this? Did that ever make a mark on you? Was that something that was there for you in terms of your consciousness? Because it is very much part of my consciousness now.
It did make a dent on me, because at the time I was a copywriter and art director at an ad agency, and the vast majority of people that were at the ad agency were males.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the male writers, the male art directors and such. And so that definitely made a dent, because you weren't really hearing about women directing shows or women directing films or women writing films. Like you had your Catherine Bigelow, who, did Point Break and really made a mark on things, but you didn't have a lot of those names, and now it's, thank God there are more people, but it's still, I mean, it's never going to be a one-to-one. I mean, when you think about it, if you go through the history of film or television or cinema or whatever, and you look at all the names of all the males that are involved in it, if you keep going for another 100 years, maybe you might get close to making it even, but probably not, simply because and I think that is a detriment to a lot of people, because you want to see a name on the credits that you can attach yourself to.
Of course.
I mean, and people talk about this all the time in terms of character representation,
of course,
being, representative of, gender identities and different cultures and such. So when you don't see your name there, you don't think that you could be there, because everybody thinks, well, it can't be me. I can't be the only person like that. That's not my job to do that. So you're always looking for somebody else to be the trailblazer, and then to be able to jump on. But no, I always watch the credits, simply because one thing my husband taught me was that everybody works really, really hard on these shows and these films, and whether there's an end credit scene for a superhero film or whatever, we sit through the entire credits because everybody's name deserves to be seen.
Of course. 100%.
I love that.
Which is, absolutely. Well, we thank you. We thank you for joining us. It is just such a pleasure You know how I feel about you. And I
love you, Susan.
I love you too. And I just adore your brain. I love how you think. I love how you speak. It's wonderful. So can you please tell people how they can find you, how they can find your material, like your books, anything, so they can get more Erica in their lives if they wish to.
I am still on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. I am still on Twitter at Erica Schultz 42. I'm on Blue Sky at Erica Schultz 42. I am on Instagram at Erica Schultz Writes, WRITES, and my website is ericaschultzwrites.com. In December, Laura Kinney Wolverine #1 will be in stores. And in January, Daredevil Unleash Hell #1 will be in stores from Marvel. And I know that this is a DC podcast. But DC hasn't called me to write anything, so I have to push Marvel.
Jim Lee, I know you're listening, buddy. Let's make that phone call, shall we, Mr. Jim Lee?
I made you a very good cup of coffee when you came by the studio one time. You told me I made you a very good cup of coffee. So there you go, Jim Lee. I will happily write Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter, Zatanna, Constantine, whoever you want. You let me know.
Hawkgirl has always been there for you. For as long as I've known you.
I've always loved Hawkgirl.
Oh, you've always loved, gosh, Jim Lee. What? Come on, Jim.
Okay, just one nerd question before we let you go, Erica. Who wins in a fight, Hallows Eve or Hawkgirl?
Well, I mean, a Hallows Eve simply because she has the masks. She could put on a Hawkgirl mask.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
You know, she could put on a Hawkgirl mask, and then there you go. She would have the wings. She would have the power of the mace. She would have the extra strength. I mean, Hawkgirl, as compared to a human, Hawkgirl has more durability. So, as a Thanagarian. So, but are we talking Kendra or are we talking Shaira?
Talking Shaira, of course.
Okay. Well, look.
It's a Justice League podcast. Come on.
Nothing against Kendra, but I mean, I go with Gardner Fox's first run. So.
I understand. That makes perfect sense. I do get that. I just had to ask because I know you have, worked on those characters, and obviously Hallows Eve, big fan, let me just say.
Thank you very much.
Of course. This has been so cool having you back again. It won't be the last time. I have no doubt. Erica, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you for having me, Susan. It is always lovely to see you, James. Thank you very much for having me. I got to go package up the cat and take her to the vet.
Oh, now. Yes. Good luck with that. We'll talk later.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Always great to have her on because she brings insights, that writer's perspective that I think sometimes we have writers on from the show who wrote the episodes, much like Stan, who they wrote the episode, though. It's kind of nice to get a writer's perspective who didn't work on that episode necessarily, which I thought she made a lot of great points.
Great points. And also, I love hearing from a fan of the show who was there back in the day, watching the show on Cartoon Network. Did you watch it on Cartoon Network, James?
No, I didn't. I don't know if I've told you this before. All the listeners are now rolling their eyes going, oh, here it comes. Yes, we know. You had the DVDs.
So I wasn't going to mention, I saved it up because she did mention it during the show. I asked her, but I was going to save it for the outro. But yeah, and just knowing she was a fan watching and then to hear her different perspective as a fan, as a writer. And I also I really appreciated when she said so different watching it then and your take with the commercials and then watching it all these years later as an experienced writer, being able to analyze it differently and experience it differently without commercials and the whole experience. I loved hearing her take. I always do. She's just so bright when it comes to these topics, and hearing the two of you chat about it, it just makes me so happy that we have a platform where people who care about these things, these topics, this genre, can share their thoughts and opinions and passion about it. So it's wonderful. She's terrific.
Yes. Like I said, sure it won't be the last time that Eric is on the show. I have no doubt we'll bring her back. We'll rope her back in for another future installment.
Or rope her or lasso her back in, if I will.
Oh, see, I like what you did there. Yes. And I was never a fan of the ropers. I was always a Mr. Furley guy, just because Don Knotts, That's a reference for the older crowd who's listening. So.
No, I'm just the opposite. Love the ropers. Love
really?
The ropers. No, first of all, I didn't love the ropers. And I'm one of those people who didn't love the show, by the way. I love how now it's considered a classic, and that makes me kind of like go, what? Because I don't, what? Hello? You should see your expression now. Do you love that show with all your heart?
Wow, you think you know someone. And then they tell you they don't like Mr. Furley, let alone Three's Company.
I really I couldn't tolerate Mr. Furley. I really couldn't.
Oh my gosh, Don Knotts is so great.
No, yes, he is great, but no. No. All
Susan,
right, let's move on.
Susan, you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, Susan. Yeah. So, my poor attempt at Mr. Furley.
I did not know you had that in your toolbox.
They should have had Don Knotts as one of the voices on Justice League. Just saying.
Let's move on,
all right,
please.
Here we go.
I'm begging you.
So, yeah, we'll go off on a low note. With that said, folks, we do appreciate your patience in us getting back on our feet here after Mother Nature's 1-2 punch. And thank you for sticking with us. Thank you all for listening. And as Susan said at the beginning, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so on whatever podcast platform you're finding Justice League Revisited. Click that subscribe button so you get notified every time we do go live. We try to put it out on Twitter, the day of that we're releasing, and we try to let you know in advance with guests. But because everything was so topsy-turvy with this episode, we didn't actually, again, end up soliciting listener questions for this one as well. But that'll change. As soon as we get back on our feet here fully, we'll let you know on Twitter, hey, we're going to be talking to this person about this episode, because we love the listener questions. We always get really, really good questions from our fans and listeners.
Totally. And it makes it more of a conversation with all of us. So It's not just me and James and the guest. It's all of you and your questions as well. So, we absolutely will return to that very shortly. Stay tuned.
Very shortly, yes. So if people want to find you online, Susan, keep up with you and your cross-country travails and travels, where would they look?
Well, James, they would look on social media, where I am located at Susan Eisenberg 1, the number 1. And anything else, I have a website, which I'm proud of. I don't know that there's anything really newsy on there right this second. That will change in the coming months, but SusanEisenbergVoice.com. And I think that's it, right? And then just listen to this podcast and make sure that you subscribe and leave a review, because that really will help us as we move through this and as we try to build this podcast. I mean, we're loving it. We're so proud of it, but we also want to grow it so that more and more people find it and enjoy it. So please subscribe.
Yeah, my niece, Sophia, who is 19 years old, just told me she hung out with her yesterday and I'm starting to watch the Justice League animated series. I said, well, have you listened to our podcast? She said, what? So I said, we've got another new listener, my mom and my niece. So there you go. We're up to 5.
Thankfully. Oof. Thankfully. And what about you, James? Where can people find you if they are indeed looking for you?
If you're looking for me, unless you're a tax collector, you can find me at Geek to Me Radio, GeekToMeRadio on Twitter and Instagram and Threads. We have a weekly radio show, Geek to Me Radio, every Sunday night on a terrestrial radio 550 AM KTRS in the greater St. Louis area. But you can also stream us online if you go to facebook.com/geek2me radio. We live stream to Facebook and YouTube, which has been growing steadily. I'm so impressed. We just passed 3,600 followers on YouTube, subscribers there. So if you haven't already been one of those people, please go to youtube.com/geek2me radio, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you'll get notified every time we do a live broadcast with video on our show there at KTRS.
And I have to say, I love following Two Rivers Con.
Yes, Two Rivers Comic Con. So that's coming up.
Because I'm following and I'm able to see who you're adding, to your guest list. And it's really exciting. So people should follow that too.
Yes. To
see what's going to be happening with that, because that's, I'll be attending and that's really exciting. So I get to see who I'm going to meet when I go there.
Chuck Patton is a fantastic artist. He did work on Justice League and New Teen Titans, Tales of Teen Titans. We just added him recently, and I'm so stoked to bring him in because his commissions, he does commissions, those are open, and he'll be doing commissions for people at the con, but his art style has not changed. Some people, you see their art kind of evolve and change throughout the years. His art style is just as crisp and clean as it was when he was doing Tales of Teen Titans and Justice League in the mid-'80s. He's a director of a lot of animated films. He's worked on Todd McFarlane's Spawn. So he's done a lot of stuff. So we're so excited to have added him. And of course, we'll have our Justice Leaguers, Susan and Phil, there, with more being added as we go up. So at the number 2 Rivers Comic Con on Twitter and Instagram, you can keep up with the shows there, and 2riverscomiccon.com if you want to get your tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that's another one in the can, right? Like, here we are, back in the saddle.
I know.
Anyway, thank you, all of you. Thank you for showing up and listening and supporting us. And please stay tuned, because the conversation continues.